In 1986, a catastrophic accident in a Ukrainian nuclear power station created a radioactive cloud that spread across Europe and turned the area into one of the 20th century's most infamous ghost towns. The world's first nuclear power plant was put into operation in Obninsk, near Moscow, in 1954. The experimental water-cooled plant was built to produce atomic energy that could be harnessed for electricity generation and transport needs.
The Soviet Union, which included Ukraine in those days, had a very pro-nuclear power policy. There was a degree of hubris, I think. This was supposed to be the top technology in the top technological country in the world, according to Soviet propaganda. And as a result, they pursued a design that had been rejected by every other country in the world.
Despite protests around the world, the nuclear industry grew rapidly in Europe and Russia during the 1970s and 80s. That changed after an accident at Russia's Chernobyl plant in April 1986. On the evening of the 26th of April, the plant's safety systems were turned off during a late-night test.
So power went from about 6% of normal operating to about 480 times normal operating within about 3 seconds. There was a huge hydrogen explosion. The pile cap, the 2,000-ton metal cap over the top of the reactor, was flipped up into the air like a coin, and the reactor core was exposed, so a very large amount of material could escape.
The accident would have a devastating effect.
In terms of the radioactive fallout, there were about 30 deaths on site. About another 250 people suffered from radiation sickness. The longer-term effects were the thyroid cancers in the area. Because of radioactive iodine in the plume, this was taken up in thyroids of local people.
Vast tracts of Ukrainian farmland lie contaminated, and the effect on Chernobyl's community will be felt for generations.
Fires from the explosion created updrafts of radioactive material which travelled across the European continent for more than a week. Yet Soviet authorities failed to notify any other governments of the incident.
Soviet officials have blamed the catastrophe on human negligence.
It was only when nuclear particles were detected in Sweden that the outside world became aware of the disaster.
The Soviets tell the world what really happened at the Chernobyl nuclear reactor disaster in April. The Scandinavians are only now beginning to realize the whole cost to wildlife in Northern Europe.
And there had been attempts to cover up the accident once it had occurred, even from the Soviet high command. I suspect that it was a significant issue in the breakup and collapse of the communist system.
As a result of the accident, global confidence in nuclear power plummeted. The nuclear power industry went into deep recession in the 1990s. For decades after the accident, Chernobyl's reactor has sat in its concrete sarcophagus, a reminder of the potential cost of nuclear power.
There is agreement, however, on both sides of the nuclear argument post-Chernobyl. It must never happen again.